Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be going over two potential tropical storms. We currently have Invest 97L and 98L, which are currently in the southern Caribbean and just to the east of the Caribbean. And those could potentially become Tropical Storm Laura and Tropical Storm Marco, or even Hurricane Laura or Marco. So we'll be talking about that in today's video, as well as going over some model guidance and giving you an outlook farther out in the hurricane season, because it does look like we're going to stay in an active pattern for the next couple of weeks at least. Now, here is the current National Weather Service page. We currently have some red flag warnings in effect for parts of Montana and Oregon, as well as Wyoming, South Dakota, and Idaho. We have excessive heat warnings for parts of much of the west, from Washington and Oregon and Idaho southward into California and Arizona there. And then we have some heat advisories in these orange shades for parts of Washington, Idaho, Montana, and also for Nevada there. So we also broke a record, I believe, in Death Valley, California, for the all-time hottest recorded temperature, 130 degrees Fahrenheit. So definitely very, very warm temperatures that we've seen, and we already broke a global record. This is the hottest temperature ever recorded on Earth as of right now. So definitely a very, very warm pattern over the western United States, and it looks like that might continue over the next couple of days. Now, here is the current 5-day graphical outlook from the National Hurricane Center. Invest 97L further to the left of your screen there in the southern Caribbean, and that has a 60% chance of developing. And then we have Invest 98L, which is further off, closer to Africa there, just west of Africa, where you're going to see a 90% chance of developing within the next 5 days. So that has a greater chance of developing. Right now, both of them look likely to become tropical storms. The big question is, where do they track and whether they become hurricanes even, because we do have a chance that both of these do become some sort of Category 1 or maybe even stronger storm, and I'll definitely be tracking that on my channel if that does occur. Now, here is the current Eastern Pacific. We have Hurricane Genevieve, which I believe actually became Category 2 hurricane, if not a Category 3. So it was definitely a very, very strong hurricane, and it is now starting to die down a little bit. We have Disturbance 2 just surrounding Genevieve right there, has a 20% chance of developing within the next 5 days. And then we have Disturbance 1, which has a 10% chance of developing within both the next 48 hours and the next 5 days. Now, here's the Central Pacific. We have Disturbance 1 southwest of Hawaii, which currently has a 10% chance of developing within the next 5 days. And again, that is southwest of Hawaii. Now, here is current Invest 97L on the infrared satellite loop, and this is showing you how cold your cloud tops are. The more intense and vibrant the shading of color there, that indicates the higher those cloud tops are rising, and the colder those cloud tops are, the colder they are, the more intense the thunderstorms, and in turn, the more intense the tropical storm. Now, what we're seeing is that we're actually seeing these the main area of convection, which right now is over the northern side of this system. We saw that before over the southern side, so this is actually making a transition from the southern side and then kind of flipping around over to the northern side. So all that very intense thunderstorm activity is moving over to the northern side of the system, and that should help the storm grow a little bit. Now, here is where Invest 97L currently is. It's currently at 13.2 degrees north by about 65.4 degrees west, with sustained winds of about 30 knots, so only 5 knots greater in wind speeds for sustained winds, and we have another tropical storm on our hands. Minimum pressure of about 1009 millibars, and now let's start looking at some of the model track guidance. So here's the Invest 97L main model track guidance, and they are showing this mainly moving throughout the southern Caribbean and then moving into the Gulf of Mexico. Now, the big question here is, does this cross over the Yucatan Peninsula, and does that cross cross over there and then move over to Texas, or does this kind of move further to the east and kind of move over almost Cuba and then move into Florida and then maybe even curve out into the east coast? That's what some of these models are showing, especially on the ensembles. Now here is the GFS ensemble models. They're not going out far enough for us to really get any data from them. And then here is the Canadian ensemble models, and this is kind of the widest spread that I've seen pretty much this entire hurricane season. You have tracks all the way from southern Texas, northern Mexico, to all the way off the east coast. So we have definitely a lot of different solutions here. And you see, we have some models even bringing this kind of curving over Florida and then moving up the east coast. We have some models that want to keep this pretty much moving straight northwestward, and that would impact parts of Texas and Louisiana with some impact. So we'll have to see what happens, and it's still all up in the air. Now, here's the intensity guidance, and all of these models pretty much bring this to a tropical storm, and a few of these models actually bring this to a Category 1 hurricane. Now, here is currently Invest 98L in the infrared satellite loop for that storm, and we do see some decent convection on both the western side of this storm as well as the northern side of this storm. So quite a bit of convection. If you can get that convection to wrap around the center of the storm, I think you'll be able to get this storm to be named within the next day or two. Now, this is currently located at 11.5 degrees north by about 37.7 degrees west. Maximum sustained winds of about 25 knots with gusts to 35 knots, which is tropical storm force, and a minimum pressure of about 1009 millibars. Now, here's your current model intensity or model track guidance, and most of these models bring this at kind of paralleling the Caribbean islands or moving just north of them, and then maybe curving into the Bahamas or maybe curving into the eastern Gulf of Mexico. That's really undecided, but we do have a decent spread here, so it's not too uncertain as of right now. The spread actually isn't too bad for this far out, so we still have some certainty in this storm. Now, here is the GFS ensemble models, and you do see the pinks and purples. That indicates a very, very strong storm, and you can see we do have a couple of these where they're showing a very, very strong storm, where you see on the model track outlines they have pinks and purples. That would indicate a very strong storm, and luckily that would be off the shore, but it does go to show you these storms can really just kind of intensify very, very quickly, especially in this time of year in the Atlantic, in late August and then getting into September. You can really start to see these storms really get going very, very quickly and really ramp up. So we have to always keep our eyes on the Atlantic. Now, here is the GEPS, the Canadian ensemble models, and they are a little bit more off the shore, and that would pose less of a threat, of course. So here is the current 98L model guidance, and most of these models, actually pretty much all of these models, bring this to a tropical storm, and a couple of these models even bringing this to a Category 1 hurricane, and we'll have to see what the model guidance does over the next couple of days with this storm. Now, here are some of the here are some of the environmental ingredients, and let's start looking at your sea surface temperatures. Now, here are your anomalies, and we see all throughout where this could be tracking, all throughout the Gulf of Mexico, the Caribbean, north of the Caribbean into the Bahamas, and also over the southeast coast, we have very above average sea surface temperatures. So that is not a problem in terms of the temperatures. Now, here's what they actually look like in Celsius, and I'll convert them to Fahrenheit for you. These are mainly, especially as you see those 31 degree readings, that's closer to 92 or 93 degrees, maybe even 95 degrees in some scenarios. So we do have very, very warm sea surface temperatures, and they are just going to continue to warm over the next couple of days, and that'll really help the storm get going. Both of these storms have the threat of going into the Gulf of Mexico, and look at these temperatures that are over 90 degrees and almost nearing 95 degrees, which is pretty unprecedented for this time of year. So definitely we have quite warm sea surface temperatures, and that'll really help these storms get going. Now, let's start looking at it kind of later on in the Atlantic hurricane season. And I just want to show you that this is what we currently are in, and this is showing you where we have rising or sinking air. In the greens, we have rising air. In the oranges and almost the reds, there we have some sinking air. And of course, sinking air is not good for these storms. Rising air is definitely helpful with these storms, and they really can get going if they do have some rising air under them. So this is currently what we have, and we're currently in a slight amount of rising air, moderate amount of rising air over the southern Caribbean. But I'm gonna play this forward a little bit. Now here it is by the next 48 hours, and that even starts to intensify a little bit. So we're just at the start of this rising air, and if you remember, I actually did make a video talking about when we're gonna start to see the Atlantic hurricane season start to ramp up, and I used this forecast and this projection from the GFS just because it's so accurate when it comes to when these storms are going to get firing up. And I actually said after August 10th, that's when we're really going to start to see these storms get going, and it's August 18th, and we're starting to see these storms really start to ramp up. Here would be by August 20th, here's by August 22nd, and just to show you, here's by August 31st, and while it does start to kind of die down a little bit, we still do have a very amplified pattern, and although we do have some sinking air, it would still be conducive for at least a little bit of development, and who knows, maybe by October and November we get back into some of that rising air. So definitely, we have a very interesting pattern ahead of us, and this is really going to be an interesting Atlantic hurricane season to track. If Laura and Marco do form on time, they're going to be 10 or 15 days ahead of the previous L&M storm record. So we're already setting those records, and we've already set about 10 or 11 records for earliest named storms, and it looks like we're going to continue that over the next few weeks and coming months. So that is going to wrap it up for today's video. Please consider liking the video, subscribing, and turning on notifications, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.